Welcome into the inaugural episode of the Ducker Series Part 1. And so what we're going to do in the Ducker Series are we're going to expose the biggest ducks of the PBC of boxing. And right now we're focused on the PBC because it seems like the majority of the ducking is coming from the PBC. The biggest fights, the biggest potential paydays and titles and everything is coming out of the PBC. So with no further ado, let's just start breaking it down, and let's start with the first ducker, and we're going to start with Gervonta Tank Davis. Now, Gervonta Tank Davis, he's already been a world champion. He's already proven to be too big for the division. Gervonta Tank Davis is a very good fighter. He's an interesting fighter. He's the type of fighter that everyone would like to see in a big fight, most likely against a guy like Vasily Lomachenko. We know Gervonta Tank Davis is already having trouble making weight. Gervonta Tank Davis is 21-0 with 20 knockouts, has a lot of exciting power. He's 24 years old. He's 5'5.5" with a 67.5-inch reach. He's an entertaining fighter, and we believe that he'd make an interesting clash against Vasily Lomachenko. But the fact that Leonard Ellaby, Mayweather Promotions, Floyd Mayweather, these guys are in no rush to make the fight that everyone wants to see is a problem. And people say, well, why would Tank fight him? It only benefits Top Rank. How does it only benefit Top Rank? If Gervonta Tank Davis beats Vasily Lomachenko, he beats a guy who's regarded as one of the pound-for-pound best fighters in the world. He beats a guy and automatically takes multiple world championship. And he also beats a guy and makes him a superstar overnight. Gervonta Tank Davis is no superstar right now. His last fight, he had trouble selling out. His last fight, he had horrible television ratings on Showtime against a Hugo Ruiz, in which he stopped in the first round. Gervonta Tank Davis could be the biggest star in boxing should he beat Vasily Lomachenko. Gervonta Tank Davis would be, a unified world champion. Gervonta Tank Davis would be a pay-per-view star at that point. Gervonta Tank Davis would have already accomplished everything he set out to be. But, unfortunately for him, his promotional companies, and I don't know if it's Tank or not, that's behind the scenes not wanting or not being ready. But at the end of the day, he's considered a ducker because his promotional company, the PBC, Al Heyman, and Mayweather Promotions, all work together, will not allow Gervonta Tank Davis to step up and reach for the biggest prize in boxing in his respective weight classes and divisions. But let's keep going. The next on our duckers list has to be Deontay the Bronze Bomber Wilder. Now, if you look at Deontay the Bronze Bomber Wilder, and the reason why he made this list of the ducker series is that we got to explore Deontay Wilder for a few things. One, Deontay Wilder claimed that Anthony Joshua was ducking him for such a long time. He said that again and again and again. He said Anthony Joshua was ducking him, and then Anthony Joshua sent over a contract last year, matter of fact, and Deontay Wilder said he lost his pen, refused to sign and agree to all terms. Most of these fanboys, bias channels, LDBC, Bias Ego, Dante's Bias Nation, all these guys ignored that. So we move forward. Then we move forward, and Deontay Wilder has another opportunity. Anthony Joshua was constantly calling him out, and then Deontay Wilder pursues Tyson Fury rematch over Anthony Joshua. Still ducks Joshua. Then DAZN comes out and offer him over $100 million. This is a guy whose paydays were ranging in the $1 to $2 million range for the vast majority of his career, and yet he still turns down $100 million, generational wealth, a fight with Anthony Joshua to fight Dominic Breazeale, who was not ordered to be his mandatory until after. See, at the end of the day, you have to be honest and unbiased when you analyze this. And the fact is, Deontay Wilder, the PBC, Al Heyman, and, his whole camp and corner. It's a trend that we're developing here with the PBC, is that Deontay Wilder has to fit a part of our Ducker series, because if he beats Anthony Joshua, what's the upside? Well, first of all, Deontay Wilder's the older fighter out of him and Anthony Joshua. The fact that Deontay Wilder keeps having all these injuries to his hand and his arm is a major problem and will, deter the longevity of his career. As it's imperative that Deontay Wilder gets this Anthony Joshua fight as soon as possible and give himself the best chance to win. Because what Deontay Wilder's not realizing is the longer he delays the Anthony Joshua fight, the longer and harder it'll be to beat Anthony Joshua. And so, if Deontay Wilder were to beat Anthony Joshua, if he were to land a lucky right hand, if he were to get the victory, he'd be a unified, undisputed world champion. He'd be a pay-per-view star, and he'd be an extremely wealthy man. That's why the fact that Deontay Wilder is willing to walk away from all of that proves that he's a certified ducker, and he's a part of our Ducker series. So let's get to the last name on our list for today. On part 1 is going to be Errol Spence Jr. Now he makes a list on our Ducker series because his avoidance with Terence Crawford. Let's start with Errol Spence Jr. stating that he wants, that he's not going to go to ESPN. Those are his words. Errol Spence Jr. said at the time, before they got the deal with Fox, that he's a PBC Showtime fighter, and he will not be fighting on ESPN. He will not cross the side of the street. He believes that he's the A side with the most paper-thin resume that you've ever seen before. But the reason why he's claiming A side when he knows he's not a superstar is the fact that he wants to avoid Terence Crawford. Then he comes out and states to Terence Crawford's face that, I can beat you, I'll stop you, but I'm going to take the easy road. So why not take a unification fight with Terence Crawford? If you feel like you can stop him so easily, why not make the fight? Why not make it? You have a lot of fanboys, and I've gotten a lot of comments from fanboys who are all emotional in their feelings. And, they come out and say these erroneous things. And one of the things they say is, why not fight Sean Porter? How is a unification fight with Sean Porter ducking Terence Crawford? It's a unification fight. And on the surface, that makes sense. But let's dig a little bit deeper and see and explain and explore why that's a complete duck. And so let's take a look at it. If Errol Spence Jr. fights Sean Porter and chooses Sean Porter over Terence Bud Crawford, this is why it's a duck. Because Terence Crawford fight would also be a unification. When they'll say, well, what's the difference between one unification and another? Well, let's explore that. If he beats Terence Bud Crawford, what's the upside? If he beats Terence Bud Crawford, he makes himself a pay-per-view superstar overnight. He doesn't do that with Sean Porter. If he fights Terence Crawford and beats him, he not only becomes a pay-per-view star, he becomes the best fighter at 147 pounds, period. No questions, no doubt. Beating Sean Porter doesn't do that. Keith Thurman's already beat him. Kell Brooks already beat him. Okay, and what else does Terence Crawford have? He also has a unification. And he's also the biggest payday he can get at this weight class, period. Maybe even at 154 pounds. Maybe he's the biggest payday he's going to get, period, at this point, at least for the foreseeable future. So why would you turn down the biggest foreseeable payday, a unification fight, and the chance to stamp your name in history and become the best fighter in the division and become a top-level, elite-level, pound-for-pound fighter where no one can question or doubt you again? Why would you avoid that fight to fight a Sean Porter who's already been beat by Kell Brooks, who's already been beat by Keith Thurman? Why would you do that? Unless you're a certified ducker. But once again, unbiased, as always, it's the IBFP, real, raw, uncut, and it's the Certified Duckers Part 1.